Wrestling isn't just about championships or flashy entrances. It's about rivalries, the battles that defined careers, the showdowns that shook arenas, the feuds that made us cheer, scream, and sometimes even pick sides. But which rivalry was the most iconic of every era? From betrayal to redemption, from real-life animosity to scripted perfection, these are the rivalries that shaped WWE history. So let's begin with a rivalry that was as massive as the men involved. Two of the biggest superstars in WWE history, both in size and in legacy. One was a 6'7" powerhouse draped in red and yellow. The other a literal giant, towering at 7'4" and over 500 pounds. Yes, we are talking about Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. The golden era of WWE was defined by larger-than-life superstars, colorful characters, and showdowns that felt larger than the sport itself. And no rivalry was bigger, both literally and figuratively, than Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant.
That can't be! There he is, the new World Heavyweight Champion!
For over 15 years, Andre the Giant was an unstoppable force, a true living legend. He was the immovable object in the world of professional wrestling, a man who had never been pinned, never been defeated in the ring, and for a time, he was Hogan's closest ally, a giant, a protector, a friend. But all of that changed in 1987. The whispers of Bobby "The Brain" Heenan poisoned the air. Heenan, a master manipulator, convinced Andre that Hogan had never respected him, that he had never been given a title shot despite his dominance, that he was being used. And so, on an infamous episode of Piper's Pit, the world watched in horror as Andre the Giant, the gentle giant they once loved, did the unthinkable. The betrayal was seismic. Andre had aligned himself with Heenan, the most despised manager in wrestling, and in doing so, he shattered the hearts of millions. He wasn't just challenging Hogan for the WWF Championship, he was challenging everything Hogan stood for: friendship, loyalty, the very foundation of the golden era's heroism. The stage was set for the biggest main event in professional wrestling history. WrestleMania 3, the Pontiac Silverdome. Over 93,000 people packed into the arena waiting to see what many thought was impossible. Could Hulk Hogan defeat the undefeated? From the opening bell, it was clear. Hogan was outmatched. Andre was bigger, stronger, more ruthless than ever before. And for the first time, the world saw fear in Hulk Hogan's eyes. And then came the moment, the one that still echoes through time, with the world watching with every ounce of strength left in his body. Hulk Hogan did the unthinkable. The body slam heard around the world. That wasn't just a victory, it was a defining moment in the history of sports entertainment. The very moment that turned WWE into a true global powerhouse. Hogan had conquered the unconquerable. He had slain the giant. And yet, even in defeat, Andre remained a legend. His loss didn't tarnish his legacy, it cemented it. It proved that even the mightiest of warriors could fall. But legends live forever. So, the next on our list is a rivalry that is considered to be one of the most toxic rivalries in WWE history. Yes, we are talking about Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. As WWE transitioned into the new generation era, the focus shifted from giant-sized athletes to pure wrestling ability. Two men stood out above the rest: Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels. Both were technical masters. Both were destined for greatness. But behind the scenes, their rivalry was real, personal, toxic. The tension between Bret and Shawn started subtly. In the early 90s, both had risen through the ranks. Bret as the stoic, no-nonsense technician, and Shawn as the flashy, high-flying showstopper. But their competitive spirits clashed both inside and outside the ring. It was a battle of philosophies.
I've got my fans out here, and I got my fans all around the world, and they've been waiting for this very moment.
Bret saw himself as the embodiment of traditional wrestling, disciplined, honorable, and technically sound. Shawn, on the other hand, represented the new age.
Mr. McMahon is fired. Shawn Michaels. Sweet chin music.
Brash, rebellious, and constantly pushing the envelope. And as both climbed to the top, the respect between them turned to resentment. At WrestleMania 12, their rivalry reached a turning point in one of the most grueling matches in WWE history, a 60-minute Iron Man match. Shawn Michaels emerged victorious, claiming his first WWF championship. But while the world saw a classic, behind the scenes, their animosity was boiling over. Things only got worse from there. Their dislike for each other became public. Accusations, insults, and even physical altercations backstage made it clear this wasn't just a wrestling storyline anymore. It was war. war. The hostility reached its peak in 1997. Bret Hart, after years of being WWE's top star, had signed a deal to leave for WCW. But there was just one problem. He was still the WWF champion. Bret, proud and loyal to his Canadian fans, refused to lose the title in Montreal. But Vince McMahon had other plans. The Montreal Screwjob, the most controversial moment in wrestling history. As Shawn locked in the sharpshooter, it wasn't just a match, it was a betrayal. Bret was screwed. Shawn was crowned WWE's top guy, and Vince McMahon became the most hated man in wrestling. This moment shattered Bret's trust in WWE and forever changed the industry. For over a decade, Bret and Shawn didn't speak. But in 2010, in an emotional moment on WWE Raw, they finally buried the hatchet.
I'd like to take this opportunity right now to bury the hatchet with you and call for a truce.
Years of animosity, controversy, and one of the most personal rivalries in history came to a close with a handshake and an embrace. This feud didn't just define the new generation era, it changed WWE forever. Now, let's talk about a rivalry that defined an entire generation, turned every arena into a battlefield, and gave us some of the most iconic moments in wrestling. Yes, we are talking about The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Attitude Era was all about rebellion, chaos, and attitude, and one rivalry that stood out from the rest was the rivalry between The Rock and Stone Cold. They were complete opposites. Austin, the beer-drinking anti-hero. The Rock, the electrifying corporate champion. Austin was the Texas Rattlesnake, a no-nonsense, foul-mouthed rebel who stood against authority. The Rock was the people's champion, a charismatic, trash-talking sensation who could control an entire arena with just a look.
Or maybe even The Rock has got to beat The Undertaker. Beat him so bad that one more time, he'll raise up.
Their paths collided again and again, producing some of the most unforgettable moments in WWE history. Their rivalry played out on the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Each match was bigger, more intense, and more emotionally charged than the last. WrestleMania 15 in 1999 saw Austin reclaim the WWE Championship from The Rock in a chaotic, hard-hitting battle that solidified both as the top stars of the industry. 2 years later, at WrestleMania 10-7, they headlined again in what many consider the greatest wrestling match of all time. The energy was electric, the stakes at their peak, and when Austin did the unthinkable, aligning himself with longtime enemy Vince McMahon to secure the victory, it sent shockwaves through the wrestling world. But it was their final clash at WrestleMania 19 that gave this rivalry its ultimate conclusion. This time, it was The Rock who emerged victorious, finally defeating his greatest rival on the biggest stage. The match wasn't just about titles or personal pride, it was about legacy. And in an emotional, unscripted moment, The Rock leaned down to whisper something to Austin before leaving the ring, marking the end of an era. This would be Austin's last WWE match, making the moment even more iconic. Their rivalry wasn't just about championships or dominance. It was about 2 larger-than-life figures pushing each other to be the best. Behind the scenes, they had an immense respect for one another, knowing that together they had created something truly special. Austin, Rock, 2 of the biggest icons WWE has ever seen, and their rivalry, it's one that will never be forgotten. Now, the next rivalry that we're going to talk about is a rivalry that blurred the lines between a hero and a villain. A clash between WWE's ultimate hero and its most cunning villain. Yes, my friends, we are talking about John Cena versus Edge. The ruthless aggression era introduced us to a new breed of superstars, but one rivalry stood above the rest. John Cena versus Edge. This wasn't just about titles. It was a battle of ideologies, a war between 2 men who wanted to define the future of WWE. It all began in 2006 at New Year's Revolution. Cena had just survived a grueling elimination chamber match, barely able to stand when Edge's music hit. For the first time in WWE history, the Money in the Bank contract was cashed in. Edge delivered 2, and the WWE Universe was in shock. Edge wasn't just a villain, he was a master manipulator, using mind games and shocking antics to stay ahead. From his infamous live sex celebration on Raw to ambushing Cena whenever possible, Edge made it personal. But Cena wasn't one to back down. The Never Say Die hero fought back, and their rivalry quickly escalated into one of the most heated feuds in WWE history. They waged war over the WWE Championship, trading victories in some of the most hard-fought matches of the era. Edge thrived on chaos, while Cena refused to stay down. Every battle felt bigger than the last, culminating in some of the most unforgettable moments in WWE history. Their TLC match at Unforgiven 2006 was the definition of brutality. In front of Edge's hometown crowd in Toronto, Cena put everything on the line. The match reached its peak when Cena hoisted Edge high above the ring and sent him crashing through two stacked tables below. It was a moment that solidified Cena's resilience and ended Edge's title reign, but Edge wouldn't let it go. The rated R superstar took things to an even more personal level when he invaded John Cena's family home and assaulted his father. This wasn't just about championship gold anymore, this was war. When all was said and done, this rivalry not only made Edge one of the greatest heels in WWE history, but it cemented John Cena as the face of the company. Their battles defined the ruthless aggression era and left a legacy that WWE fans will never forget. The next rivalry on our list is so insane that it didn't just break the fourth wall, it smashed it with a pipe bomb, sent shockwaves through WWE, and left Vince McMahon questioning every decision he ever made. The PG era had many great feuds, but none felt as real as John Cena versus CM Punk. This was more than just a wrestling storyline. It was a battle between two contrasting ideologies. On one side, John Cena, the company's golden boy, the face of WWE, the ultimate hero. On the other, CM Punk, the self-proclaimed voice of the voiceless, a rebellious force challenging everything WWE stood for.
Somebody who's always been so pro John Cena, I figured you'd come out here wearing one of his ridiculous red t-shirts, you'd have the armbands on.
Their rivalry became a war between tradition and revolution. Everything changed on June 27, 2011. Punk sat at the top of the entrance ramp and delivered the most infamous promo in WWE history.
I'm breaking the fourth wall. I am the best wrestler in the world.
He broke the fourth wall, called out WWE's backstage politics, and declared that he would leave the company with the WWE Championship. In that moment, reality and fiction blurred like never before. It all led to Money in the Bank 2011, set in Chicago, CM Punk's hometown. The atmosphere was electric. Fans were fully behind Punk while Cena fought an uphill battle. The stakes have been never higher before. For over 30 minutes, they put on an absolute classic. In the end, Punk hit the GTS, pinned Cena, and did the unthinkable. He grabbed the WWE Championship and left through the crowd, blowing a kiss to Vince McMahon on his way out. WWE had never seen anything like it. This wasn't just a storyline, it felt real. It was chaos, it was unpredictable, and it was exactly what WWE needed. But the war wasn't over. Punk and Cena battled for months, their paths crossing multiple times. At SummerSlam, Night of Champions, and beyond, the dynamic was always the same. Punk represented rebellion, Cena represented the establishment, and every time they fought, the fans were completely invested. Their matches were instant classics. Whether it was Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, or their unforgettable Raw match in 2013, they delivered every single time. Some even say their in-ring chemistry was among the best in WWE history. But despite all of Punk's efforts, Cena remained WWE's top guy, and that frustration ultimately played a role in Punk's decision to walk away from WWE in 2014. Still, their rivalry left an undeniable impact. It was a battle that defined the PG era and gave fans some of the greatest moments in modern WWE history. John Cena versus CM Punk wasn't just a feud, it was a movement, and it's one that fans still talk about to this day. So, the next rivalry on our list is one that wasn't just about championships. It was about rebellion, about proving the system wrong and challenging the status quo. Imagine a guy WWE never wanted as their top star, fighting against the very machine built to keep him down. We are talking about Daniel Bryan versus The Authority. Daniel Bryan was never supposed to be the face of WWE. He didn't fit the corporate mold. He wasn't 6 feet 5 inches and 250 pounds, and he didn't have the backing of WWE's top brass. success. But what he did have was the support of the people. And the Authority? They hated that. The Authority did everything in their power to stop Bryan from reaching the top. They screwed him out of the WWE Championship at SummerSlam 2013 when Triple H, acting as the special guest referee, delivered a shocking pedigree to Bryan, allowing Randy Orton to cash in his Money in the Bank contract. This was just the beginning of Bryan's struggle. Week after week, he fought against the odds, taking on The Shield, Kane, and anyone the Authority threw at him. But no matter how many times they tried to bury him, the Yes movement only grew stronger. Then came one of the most unforgettable moments in Raw history, the Occupy Raw movement. Bryan and an army of fans took over the ring and demanded that the Authority give him a shot at WrestleMania. The people had spoken, and the Authority had no choice but to listen. At WrestleMania 30, Bryan faced Triple H in the opening match, a brutal contest that saw him overcome the game and punch his ticket to the main event. But the war wasn't over. Later that night, Bryan battled Batista and Randy Orton in a triple threat match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. The odds were stacked against him, but Bryan refused to stay down. After fighting through immense pain, he locked Batista and forced him to tap out. In one of the most emotional moments in WWE history, Daniel Bryan stood tall, holding the WWE World Heavyweight Championship above his head as 75,000 fans erupted in unison. It was the perfect ending to a story that wasn't just about wrestling. It was about defying expectations, proving doubters wrong, and showing the world that passion and heart can overcome even the most powerful forces. Daniel Bryan versus the Authority wasn't just the biggest rivalry of the reality era. It was a movement that changed WWE forever. So, the final rivalry that we are going to talk about was the one that kept audience on the edge all the time. A clash of titans that spanned multiple WrestleManias, shook the foundations of WWE, and gave us some of the most intense, high-stakes battles in modern history. Yes, we are talking about the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns versus the Beast Incarnate Brock Lesnar. For nearly a decade, this rivalry has defined the modern era. Their first major encounter came at WrestleMania 31, when Roman Reigns, the emerging powerhouse, challenged the unstoppable Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. The match was an all-out war. Lesnar's suplexes, Reigns' resilience, but it ended in shocking fashion when Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, stealing the moment from both men. But this was only the beginning. Over the years, they clashed multiple times at WrestleMania 34, SummerSlam, Crown Jewel, and beyond. Each time, the stakes grew higher, but for a long time, Lesnar always seemed to have Reigns' number. The Beast would suplex, dominate, and often walk away victorious. Then, everything changed. Roman Reigns evolved. He became the Tribal Chief, the undisputed leader of WWE. With Paul Heyman by his side, the dynamic shifted. This wasn't just a battle of power anymore. It was a battle for the soul of WWE's future. The question became, could Roman finally conquer the Beast? At WrestleMania 38, they faced off in the biggest WrestleMania match of all time. Champion versus champion. Winner takes all. Reigns walked in as the Tribal Chief, Lesnar as the dominant force he had always been. The match was violent, destructive, and symbolic of their years-long war, and in the end, Roman Reigns finally stood tall. The final chapter, at least for now, was written at SummerSlam 2022 in a last man standing match. It was chaos, tables, chairs, steel steps. Lesnar even lifted the entire ring with a tractor, but Roman, with the help of the Bloodline, buried the Beast under a pile of debris and stood victorious. A battle of dominance that lasted for years. Roman had finally conquered the Beast, but is it truly over, or will Brock Lesnar return for one last fight? Only time will tell. So this is it, friends. This was some of the biggest rivalries. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which rivalries do you think are the greatest of all time? And don't forget to like and subscribe so that we can keep bringing to you more such amazing wrestling content only on Smackverse.